Nothing like a mini payday for the conversation. Make sure you're here next week. Or, yeah, next meeting.
Oh, now this is just mean. That's just mean.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we'd like to welcome everybody out to the Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 Herriman City Planning Commission. We'll go ahead, I think I'll go ahead and we'll call this meeting to order, do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we got a little announcement that we'll do first. So we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Miss Morel Brewer. If you just come forward and help us out.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we do have a full quorum today, and before we begin the formal meeting, I do just want to make an announcement that unfortunately, the applicant for the last two items on our agenda, due to circumstances beyond their control, these were the discussions, the two legislative items, items 5.1, which was a discussion on recommendation to amend the official Herriman City zoning map and then also the discussion, same thing for item 5.2. The applicant is unable to be here tonight, so those items have been removed and will be continued to our next meeting in 2 weeks. So if you're here to make public comment, we do apologize for the inconvenience. However, that being said, there are public comment forms in the back if you want to fill those out. Provide those if you're unable to make it in 2 weeks. However, we will renotice the public hearing and have those items back up for public hearing in 2 weeks. So I thought Michael was going to get up and make a comment for us. But anyhow, just want to let everybody know, unfortunately, those items have been removed from the agenda and will be continued in 2 weeks. So with that.
Maybe just as a quick note, I understand the applicant is stuck at Snowbird.
Correct. Yeah, I got stuck in the avalanche up the canyon, so that's why they're unable to be here tonight. So with that being said, we do have the items 4.1 and through 4.4 that are on still for tonight's discussion and motions. And I just ask if there's any conflicts of interest with any of those items at this time from any of the Planning Commission members.
No.
All right. With that, we will move on to item 3.4, which we need an approval of minutes for the January 18th and the February 1st Planning Commission meetings, as well as the amended minutes from our January 4th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.4.
Okay, we have a motion by Heather.
Second.
And a second by Forrest. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 4.1, which is a consideration of a preliminary plat amendment for a 5-lot residential subdivision known as Cason Cove. Sheldon, yeah. There.
All right, good evening. So this is a request to amend a subdivision plat that we saw a few months, well, I think last year, August, actually. Okay, it's located here on the west side of the city, over off of Rose Canyon Road. It's a 3-acre parcel. Current zoning is A110. As I mentioned, the applicant came in with this request back in October. It was approved by Planning Commission for a 4-lot subdivision. During the final plat process, reprocess, the applicant wanted to amend that application to include one additional lot, to actually add one additional lot to the initial 4-lot subdivision. The original proposal was 4-lot subdivision with the intent that large lot was going to be the applicant's property to reside on. What they're proposing now is a 5-lot subdivision. They're taking that large lot and splitting it into 2 lots, creating 5 lots for the subdivision. There were some just minor adjustments just to ensure that the frontages were consistent with city code. Based on this acreage, they are not exceeding the 1.8 maximum density for the A110 zone. They're at 1.65. There was some minor concerns in engineering. These could be addressed during the final plat. This was just regarding some irrigation and some plant materials. Zoning, the proposal does meet lot width, area requirements, density requirements for the zone. That being said, staff does recommend approval with the following conditions.
Okay, thank
Do you
you,
have any
Sheldon.
questions for me?
Any discussions or questions, I should say? Okay,
The applicant said he would be here if you have any questions for him.
okay. We'll go ahead and let the applicant
Right
come
there.
forward. Is there anything more that you'd like to present? You're welcome to come up, but if not, okay. Very good. With that, this item is up for a public hearing, and let me just, before we open up the public hearing, I need to read to you the public comment policy and procedure that we have. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to the Deputy City Recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. And this policy also applies to all public hearings tonight. So with that, we will go ahead and open up the public hearing for this particular item, 4.1 on the agenda. If there's anybody that'd like to make a comment, they can come forward. Okay, seeing no public comments, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Got a motion by Brody,
Second.
second by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Any discussion by Planning Commission on this particular item?
I think we addressed most of the issues previously with the 4-lot subdivision.
I just wanted to clarify, so in our packet, it has 5 recommendations. Are we only doing the 3 recommendations presented on the screen?
So I believe that the recommendation list at the end of the PowerPoint was condensed to fit on the slide. So maybe just reference the recommendations as listed on the staff report, I would suggest.
Yeah, it was just an attempt
Yeah.
to kind of simplify the presentation.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, so number 3 addressed the conditions initially imposed on the original 4-lot subdivision. And most of those have actually been remedied already through the final plat process, but we just wanted to make sure they were still meeting those requirements.
So we're okay to just have the motion to address these 3 items then? That's what I'm hearing, right? Okay. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 4.1, the preliminary plat, with the 3 staff recommendations.
Great. We have a motion by Darrell. Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a second by Jackson. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Brody?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. We will go ahead and move on to item 4.2, which is a consideration of conditional use for the Kitty Academy site plan. And I believe Lauren, wonderful. Go ahead.
Alrighty, so we're going to be looking at Kitty Academy. We're in that northeast corner, once again, of Herriman City. This is a closer look at the site. This is in the Anthem Commercial, MDA. If you know where the Winco is, that's the building and the large parking lot that you're seeing, just to help orient yourself a little bit. Some background, this is going to be a daycare and early education facility. It's located generally at 12043 Carlsbad Way, and it is in that Anthem Commercial MDA, which is in the C2 zone. So zoning ordinance compliance, it meets everything in the 10-5-11E requirements and all commercial requirements. While we are looking at this site plan, I wanted to talk about a couple of things. You can see in the front of the lot itself, we have a parking lot. 2 of these parking lot islands are located underneath a shade structure. Those islands are being used not as a parking lot like sectioner, but as an anchor for the shade structure. The primary use of trees in these areas are to provide shade to different vehicles. So our applicant is looking for a waiver of strict compliance for these 2 trees that would normally be there. Our code does say that they are allowed to substitute a tree with 10 shrubs. So if you do approve that waiver, we will be asking for an additional 20 shrubs to be placed across the site itself to make up for those 2 trees that will be removed. Finally, our recommendations are approval with the following conditions, resubmitting with everything that we have agreed upon so far, and addressing engineering comments based on a valve.
Okay, great. Any questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant here as well? If you'd like to come forward, present any additional information, excuse me, please do so.
Hi, I'm Ben Smith. Just wanted to thank you for considering our proposal tonight, and especially grateful for the staff. They were tremendously helpful to get us where we have very few comments there. If there's any questions about the parking structure or anything of that, it's a covered parking there, which is why we would prefer not to plant trees under that. But pretty simple and straightforward. If the additional shrubs are something that's important to the planning commission or the planners, then I'm sure we can comply with that. But considering we'll have ample shade and more than the trees would probably supply, it may be a non-issue, but you can adjudicate on that.
Yeah, sometimes we're held accountable by the codes as well, so anyhow. Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, I'm all choked up tonight. Excuse me, but this is a conditional use application, so this is not open for a public hearing, so we'll just go ahead and move forward with any discussion by planning commission or any motions as well.
My only thought, did you guys look at stacking as far as a drop-off? I guess I'm sure staff to look through that. Is there any issues like in the morning or drop-off times that you're concerned about?
There's not currently anything that we are concerned with. We do require a traffic pattern, so you can see.
Yeah, you can see.
Perfect, yeah. So there are some arrows there that indicate which direction traffic has to flow.
Okay.
And that is part of the shade that was installed, is to help direct kids inside so that they don't have to cross traffic and they are sheltered from potential elements that are happening. Perfect. Because as we know, it's still snowing outside, so.
Doesn't want to stop.
Thank you.
And that's for pickup as well. I'm assuming they'll follow the same flow as for pickup as well.
I think it looks good. I'm
Yeah, I
ready to
didn't
make
see
a
any
motion.
issues.
Okay,
You good?
go
Okay,
ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.2 with staff's 4 recommendations.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Heather and a second by Brody. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to item 4.3, which is a consideration of a special exception to reduce the side yard minimum setbacks for 3 to 3 feet for an accessory structure. Sheldon, I believe this one's yours.
So as mentioned, this is a request for a special exemption for detached structure. This property is located up in Creek Ridge. There's a lot here. As you can see, it's a pie lot. It's an irregularly shaped lot. I guess some background information. So it's in Copper Creek Estates, it's an R110 zonings. It's over a 1/4 acre. The applicant's proposing a 400 square foot detached structure. Without lot size and their rear yard size, they could actually go up to, I think, 1,000 square feet. I'm trying to recall it off the top of my head. And they can actually go up to 25 feet on this property. What they're proposing is a 400 square foot structure, with a 14-foot 3 maximum height. The neighbors were notified. We had no comments or concerns from the neighboring properties. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this request is based off an irregular lot shape, and this is due to the fact that the house is pushed further back in the lot, on this lot as opposed to the other lots. So it creates kind of a narrow area there in the rear yard. What the applicant is asking is, well, per the ordinance, in the rear yard, their minimum setbacks are 3 feet. So you see these blue lines here, those are showing the side yard. So this building encroaches into the side yard, so therefore it must meet the side yard setbacks for this particular subdivision, and that they're 5 feet. So just a portion of the building's, encroaching into that 5-foot setback, and they're asking to reduce that to 3 feet. We did have a discussion to move that closer to the house, but that actually puts them, again, in violation. They're not meeting that 5-foot minimum setback.
Okay.
Let's see, and again, this is their elevations. They're proposing siding, a vinyl siding for this particular structure. Again, there's just some considerations we looked into. The 400 square feet does meet the allowable size. They're asking for a reduction of the 5-foot side yard setback to 3 feet. The finished materials, as long as it matches the primary structures, that does meet the ordinance, and it maintains, the block face. It's kind of consistent with where other garages are placed in this neighborhood. With that, meeting those requirements, staff does recommend approval for this special exception with the following conditions.
Yeah, I was glad to see you had the PUE waivers, make sure that they secured those.
Yeah, it is located within the PUEs. So.
Yeah. Any questions for city staff, for Sheldon? Nope. Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Is there anything additional you'd like to come and add to what's already been presented? Feel free to do so.
I appreciate your time on this.
Just state your name, sorry, for the record.
I'm sorry, I appreciate your time on this.
You bet.
There's not really a lot to add. I am the actual builder, I'm representing the homeowner.
Okay, are you Lauren then? Lauren Marchant, is that right?
What's that?
Your name, please.
My name is David Anderson.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
Alpine Development.
Okay.
I would like to have the 5-foot setback. We just don't have room between the home and the house, so. And the neighbor that it would affect to the east is actually his daughter. She has a garage there also that we set up, so hopefully we can get this done for him.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Again, this is just a special exception consideration, so it's not open for public hearing. So any discussion by Planning Commission?
I guess for the exception, same thing. I was just looking at the property next to it, right? They have their same large shed next to it, so it's not really impeding on their property or causing issues with the neighboring property.
And the backyards are
Yeah,
a
so I just want
roadway
to state that.
as
So
well.
Yeah, I agree.
reasoning behind
Well,
giving the
this-
exception.
This is why we set up the exception as a possibility when we went through accessory structures.
Yep.
Or was this very issue, so makes sense to me.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.3 with this for a special exception and reduce the side yard minimum setback with staff's recommendations.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Brody and a second by Forrest. Go ahead and call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Darrell?
Yes.
Andrea? Great. That motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, our last item for the night is item 4.4, which is a consideration of a preliminary plat for a 2-lot subdivision, residential subdivision known as Hellstein Subdivision. I believe Michael's filling in tonight.
Thank you. Some of our commissioners may recall that this particular applicant also petitioned the city for a text amendment that facilitated this very project tonight. So he has been incredibly patient and has worked closely with staff on this proposal. As mentioned, this is a 2-lot subdivision located here on the kind of the western edge of our city. A little closer look at this site. We've just dropped in this 2-lot subdivision. Of course, Lot 1 has an existing home on the property. Lot 2 is the new flag lot that is being created, currently vacant, and does meet all of our city standards for this type of development. One of the things that has changed recently in our flag lot ordinance is that the kind of the flag pole or the stem that provides access to these flag lots, it used to be 20 feet wide. The current code now expands it to 25 feet. The drivable surface still only needs to be 20, but we were finding that we were having problems when we had reserved just 20 feet for the access, and then as we're bringing in utilities and fencing and other things, we were often not ending up with a full 20-foot wide road or a driveway, essentially. So in this case, it's 25 feet, meets that newer standard. It even, as you can see, clips an existing accessory structure that will be removed, at least in part, to facilitate this full access. So that is just a temporary condition on this site plan. It's also been noted in the staff report that the length of the flag lot is a little bit longer than standard, but it is something that the Planning Commission can approve with a recommendation from our fire department and our city engineering department, which we have received. It was noted in your staff report. Also is being provided that typical hammerhead turnaround, that modified hammerhead turnaround for emergency vehicles. Again, all of that meets city standard. Another issue that we've looked at associated with this preliminary plat is also fencing. You may recall that we do have a standard that requires that the new flag lot have a full enclosed fence. And that's primarily with the idea that we're now introducing the potential of a residence in an area where maybe we didn't think there might be a residence. So we're trying to preserve that sense of privacy. It has to be a 6-foot privacy fence. This graphic is showing the location of some current vinyl fencing, but also some barbed wire fence. The area that has to be upgraded to meet current code is specifically around the flag lot and the long driveway as well for lot 2. The barbed wire fencing does not necessarily have to be upgraded as part of the subdivision approval, and we're not even really sure exactly is the barbed wire on whose property line and whatnot. The condition that's in your staff report, the recommendation, of course, is that the code requires that the new fencing, the vinyl fence, would be around the flag lot, and then of course that's a potential exception of the vinyl fencing along lot 1, but it's just specifically to the flag lot that is the code requirement. So again, we're recommending approval. It meets all of the ordinances that are applicable for this project. As you know, this is a public hearing. The applicant is here if you have any particular questions for him, or obviously I'll be happy to answer any questions if necessary.
Great, thank you, Michael. Any questions for Mike?
There's not anything on 73rd, like any improvements to that road required,
Yes,
right?
and I apologize, I did not mention that. So the civil engineering plans that have been submitted and reviewed by our city engineer do include improvements for the frontage, both lot 1 and lot 2. And the property owner has been working with our city engineer as we have been working to acquire rights of way and preparing for future improvements on 7300 West. So yes, all of that will be improved and dedicated as part of this project.
Okay, good question. Anything else for Michael?
One other clarification. So on this dedication, essentially the property owner is going to work closely with the city's improvement project on this. So it may actually be the city that ends up installing the improvements, just to coordinate with our contractor, but when that gets motivated, or I mean when that gets awarded, that's in the future. But it's all been designed and yeah, meets the ordinance.
Great.
So, Michael, I had a question. I know we've talked about flag lots in the past and my memory is really foggy. I thought we had talked about something in the code that we wouldn't allow flag lots anymore. Is that, I just can't remember.
No, so we did, it's been a while,
Yeah.
Where we did review the ordinance. We tightened up some standards and maybe brought more clarity to other standards, so we still allow them. And then this most recent text amendment allowed them on a minor collector street, but only in very certain conditions, which this proposal complies with. So they're still limited. One of the things that we did talk about and was not approved by the city council, and I don't recall if the planning commission supported this, a lot of cities will have the ability to have more than one lot served by a common access or a common flag
Like a private
pole.
lane.
We don't do that. We're still saying it's just one lot per flag lot. But some cities will do 2 or 3. I think Bluffdale does up to 3. But yeah, our ordinance is still just 1. And which is, you're not seeing a whole lot of these, or at least in the past, but obviously the larger lots are getting fewer and fewer. Might see a little more interest in this moving forward, but it's still a pretty narrow ordinance that we have.
Yeah, it wasn't allowed on arterials or
Right,
or
right.
things like that. It was the more residential and minor.
Yeah,
minor
local
collectors.
streets, yeah.
Yeah, local streets, right. Great. Thank you. All right, if the applicant's here, I don't know if, anything more you'd like to come forward and add for us as well? If not, that's fine too, but feel free. You're probably ready to get this
My
done.
name's Palmer Helston.
Great, nice to meet you.
I just want to know what I'm supposed to do with 2.5 acres if I can't put a flag lot on it.
No.
I'm supposed to farm it? I don't have the water.
All right, thank you. All right, so this is open for a public hearing, and just for the record, we did receive one comment prior to this meeting, and so that will be added to our meeting minutes as a part of this particular item. So at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for any comments by anyone here for this item. All right, I don't see any comments, so I will.
Anyone online?
Oh, please come forward. Sorry, thank you. State your name again.
R.L. Brewer.
Thanks,
Thank you
Marielle.
for your time. This was pertaining to the matter that will be discussed in a few weeks, but I would like to, can I bring it up here?
No,
I
this
can't
is
bring it
only,
up here?
no. What we're going to do on those items that we've continued,
Okay.
we're going to re-notice
Okay.
the public hearing. And at that time, in 2 weeks, when we come back, we're anticipating it coming back in 2 weeks. At that time, we'll take comments on that item. If you're unable to make it at that time, there is an opportunity for you to provide a comment online, or you could, since you're here, fill out a form at that time. But right now, we're just taking comments on this item 4.4
Okay.
at this time.
So the one that I submitted today online, is that?
So you've
listed?
already, okay, we've already got your comment then. Yes, oh, there it is right there. We do have it.
Perfect.
And that will be added to the public record as well
Okay,
with this.
excellent.
So thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much. I
much.
appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet. Michael, go ahead.
Maybe you were going to do this, but we did receive one email public comment on this item, so.
Yeah, I did mention that we do have that one item, and it'll be added to the record for this one. Correct? And we've all received it prior and reviewed it. So yes, thank you. All right, with that, looks like we can close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion by Forrest.
Second that.
Second by Brody. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So public hearing is closed. At this time, we'll go ahead and, is there any discussion from the Planning Commission?
Makes sense what the applicant wants to do with this type of lot. So,
It meets our requirements.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.4
All right, we have
with staff's recommendations.
2 recommendations.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll
We have
second.
a motion by Brody and a second by Heather. Thank you. We'll go ahead and call for a vote. We'll start with Andrea,
Yes.
Darrell,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Forrest,
Yes.
and Brody.
Yes.
And that motion passes. So thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate all of you being in attendance, and I do apologize for the hiccup on items 5.1 and 5.2.
Do we need to make a motion to formally continue 5.1 and 2?
No, I think the applicant, that's a great question. I don't think we do, because the applicant withdrew and decided to continue, so I don't think we have to do a formal motion
Okay.
on those items. Thank you for that clarification as well. Any comments from anyone here in general? Okay, With that, just announce that our next city council meeting will be a week from today on Wednesday. Again, planning commission will be 2 weeks from today. We anticipate those items being on here. There still could be a chance so that they may be continued to another date, but keep an eye out. We'll renotice the public hearing, and that'll be on the agenda at a future date, anticipated in 2 weeks. So, and then the following week, April 26th, will be another city council meeting. We will go ahead and, well, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We go ahead and adjourn. Thank you very much.
Well, barring any more avalanches or
Yeah.
heaven forbid
Hopefully,
flooding.
hopefully,
Or
yeah, the
flooding.
flooding, you're gonna wash out some bridges and stuff, right? So.